morning, YouTube. I am driving to work, as you can tell by the steering wheel that is taking up a quarter of the screen. However, I cannot position my iPad well enough to not get that, but still be in a stable position in my car, so you'll have to deal with it. I would like to share with you a thing that happened to me a couple days ago, because it blew my mind. It's a section-by-section replay of an event that consisted of just a bunch of smaller events. And I hope that you find it as amusing as I did. So, I went to Home Depot the other day. Now, I don't know if you can tell from this video, but the car that I'm driving is a smart car. So it can fit 2 people and a bag of chips in it. And that's about it. I mean, I say that it's actually a really roomy car. But anyway, I'm driving this tiny little, like, fucking roller skate of a car. And I drive into the Home Depot parking lot. It's like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And yet, there are still day workers there at the entrance waiting to get picked up for a job. And one of them tries to hail me in my tiny, tiny car as though he thought that I had a construction job for him. So, I mean, that's... okay, whatever. I'll forgive them for that. But it's kind of an absurdity, isn't it? Like, oh, this tiny dude with his tiny, tiny car must have a construction job for me. I can tell from all of the construction equipment that he's got in his car. So anyway, I pulled into a parking space. And the Home Depot by my place, I don't know if anywhere else does this, but the Home Depot by my place has, you know, like the pro member only spots and the handicap spots, but now they've also put in a row of spots for American veterans, and I don't really know if they can enforce that by law, because they're like how would you check that, you know? Like, somebody pulls up and there's a cop there like, excuse me sir, are you a veteran? And they're like, yeah? I'd like to see your medals, sir. I'd like to see your uniform with the gunshot in it, sir. Or so, how do you do that? It's going to be ridiculous. So anyway, I park one space over from there in one of the open spaces. And as I'm, you know, turning off the car, putting it in park, etc., I look in my rearview mirror, and there is a nun behind me. Like a full-on, full-habit, white headband, blanket on the head nun. And that wouldn't be so weird if she wasn't just carrying a 2x4. Just carrying a 2x4 right across on her shoulder, going somewhere with it. But she didn't have any other bags. She didn't have any, like, nails or hammers or screws or drill guns or anything. She just had a 2x4. Now, she wasn't going to make a cross out of that thing because she didn't have 2 of them. She certainly wasn't going to make, like, a pew rail out of that unless she, well, I mean, those things are madly uncomfortable, so I wouldn't be surprised, perhaps. But, like, what on earth is this, like, old... And she had to have been, like, 9 million years old, too, so she was really out of place here. So this old lady, in a nun's habit, is walking behind me with a big, long 2x4, and it was, like, 8 feet, 10 feet long, and she just had it slung over her shoulder, and all I could think of was like, you're doing a Jesus cosplay wrong. First, that's the wrong shape, and second, you kinda gotta have a beard and junk. So, anyway. But this gets to the crux of my story, because why I went to Home Depot was to look for drywall stilts. Because I'm picking up a pair of drywall stilts for the entertainment company that I'm working on, Weatherlight Performance. And to that end, I looked them up on the internet, and I saw the prices, so I wanted to go down and see them in person. So I walked into the entrance closest to the customer service desk, and I asked the lady at the customer service desk, "Where do you keep your drywall stilts?" And she, without missing a beat, said, "They're over in the building materials," which means that she didn't listen to a word that I said. She heard the word drywall and was like, oh, it must be that stuff. So I didn't want to call her out on it, so I just said, okay, thank you, and I walked that direction, because that direction is also where the pro counter is. And I got to the pro counter, and there was a gentleman behind the desk, sitting at his computer. And I asked him, "Excuse me, sir, where do you keep the drywall stilts?" And he looked at me with this funny look and said, "What?" "The drywall stilts, sir, where do you keep them?" I don't know what that is." So, at this point, it just, like, it was only in my head that this man didn't know that you used stilts to install drywall sometimes. So I said, the stilts that you use for drywall installation. And he goes, "I don't know what that is." And so I knew that he had to know what drywall was, because he worked at a fucking Home Depot. Which meant that he had to not know what the word stilts was. So I asked him, "Do you not know what the word stilts is?" And he said, "Nah." And I just was flabbergasted for a moment. I was like, "What? Wow, okay. Okay, so stilts are the things that you put on your feet to make you taller." And he goes, "Yeah, what?" And so I had him look it up on his computer, on the Home Depot website, to show him what drywall stilts were. But before he even got there, he was like, "Oh yeah, I'll take you and show you." And he started to get up, and I was like, no, look it up on the computer so you know what you're looking for. And he looked it up, and he saw them on the website, and he goes, "Oh yeah, we don't have these in the store, man. You gotta order these online." And I was like, "Then what the fuck were you gonna go show me just now? Were you gonna go show me some magical, like, fucking slip and slide that you use for hair gel or some shit? Because at this point, I'd believe it." So I walked away. I was just so mind blown by the fact that this motherfucker didn't know what the word stilts was. And furthermore, tried to, like, take me and show me a thing which was obviously not going to be stilts. And so I walked out, and I walked out past the automatic, or the self-checkout area. And there was an elderly gentleman tending the self-checkout area. And I could tell that he is only tending this now because he spent the first 700 years of his life doing construction. Because his hands were gnarled up and shit, and there was, like, still a bruise on his thumbnail and that kind of thing. And as I was walking out, he said, "Did you find everything you were looking for today?" And I said, "No, I did not, sir." And he said, "Oh, what were you looking for?" And I said, "I was looking for drywall stilts, but one of your employees did not know what the word stilts was." So I was sorely disappointed, and also very confused. And the man looked at me and he just went, "Who was it?" I pointed the guy out, and he didn't say anything after that. He just laughed, like, a lot. So it made me wonder if the person that I talked to was perhaps not the most popular for being able to answer simple questions like, "Do you have this item?" So, anyway, I left, I got back into my car, and I drove away. There were no nuns in the parking lot, and I did not get hailed by another day worker. So that was the saga of me going to Home Depot. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.